We are very honored to have Norman Kennedy here, who is a priceless Vermont resident and a repository of traditional folklore and song from Scotland, who's recognized around the world. And Mr. Kennedy was born in Aberdeen, Scotland, and as a young man after the war, he quit school at the age of 16. And as he told me this morning, he immersed himself in the culture, the songs and stories of the old-timers. And in the company of some of these old-timers, there were a few left that still did traditional handloom weaving, and he gravitated towards those people over time. And in 1950, he went to the Hebrides for the first time, flew on a plane for the first time, and went to the Isle of Lewis to a Celtic conference that they had there, where there were people coming from Spain and parts of Europe that are not, a lot of people don't recognize as being Celtic, but actually have very strong Celtic roots. So northern Spain, there were Scandinavians there, and people from all over Europe, and he said this was a revelation. And he subsequently went back to the islands and spent 9 summers on the Isle of Barra, as he put it, absorbing stuff, which he has a knack for, as you'll see, especially from this older generation. He has been in Vermont since 1974, and this came about, he came here first in 1965 and performed Scottish ballads at the Newport Folk Festival, and he took a little excursion up to Vermont at that time and was impressed by the place. He moved to the States and became a master weaver at Colonial Williamsburg from 1967 to 72. And in 1968, he released a Ballads and Songs of Scotland album on the Folk Legacy label, which is still available on CD. And I think he has some, if people want to talk to him afterwards, he might have brought a few recordings. In 1974, as I said, he moved to Vermont and he established the Marshfield School of Weaving. And he is considered a master handloom weaver. And he ran the Marshfield School until 1995. And in 2003, he was awarded a very prestigious National Heritage Fellowship from the NEA, which is a rare thing given to people who are repositories of cultural traditions. And I thought I'd end this short introduction with a comment from a fellow Scotsman who was writing in 2004, right after Norman received the fellowship. And this is from a journal called, a magazine called The Leopard, the magazine of Northeast Scotland. And this is Arthur Watson. And he says, at the end of his accolades for Norman's accomplishment, he says, "In celebrating Norman Kennedy's achievement, we are also celebrating the achievement of the singers of that earlier generation. We are celebrating the enduring qualities in Scots folk song, and we are celebrating a traditional way of living and working that is now barely evident. We can also celebrate the enlightened patronage of the National Endowment for the Arts in awarding the National Heritage Fellowships. Unfortunately, amongst all this celebration is the underlying knowledge that nothing remotely like this exists in Scotland, and a suspicion that if it did, it would have neither the focus or on real bearers of tradition, nor the cultural diversity that has been amply demonstrated by this exemplary American model." There you go. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to Norman, and he will regale you with stories and songs.
Well, no, it's half a good for you folk to come out in a night like this to listen to all foreign blathers. So I thought I'd give you a soch of my own way of speaking, my home tongue. I guess nor hammy on to sheer Jahalaba, hammy bring Gaelic coachach. But I suppose I'd better speak to you in school English that we had to learn. It wasn't our natural way of talking at all, but it comes in handy now and then, the English. So, but I belong Aberdeen. I don't come from Aberdeen, I belong there. My folk have been there in written history, like I've said to some folk before, in written history, since the end of the 1200s. So we belong there. We have nothing to do with Irish Kennedys. A totally different tribe, totally different. A lot of Danish blood in us. Because of course the Danes, they settled in the east coast of Scotland and the east coast of England, Northumberland, right down to York. Of course, that was the Danelaw. the Norwegian Vikings, or Vikings as they pronounce it up there, they went up north and round into Ireland and the Western Isles. So in the Gaelic language in Bara, there's a great deal of anything to do with fishing or building boats or things like that. That was Norse, pure Norse words, you see. So they spoke a lot of Norse area. So a lot of that comes into my home dialect. But I would be, my age group would be the last to be able to talk it fluently and be able to read it and write it. I mean, I could speak to my brother and my sister-in-law, and my niece would understand some. She wouldn't speak it. My great nephew, 16, he wouldn't understand it all. So this old-fashioned stuff that I know is not everybody. There's always some who'll hold on to it. Even there'll always some peculiar young ones, just like I was peculiar. When I was at school one time, we had to do a ink exercise in the weekend, and a composition. And one time my English teacher said, "Norman, who do you like to keep company best? Your own siblings or older people?" I says, "Older people." "Why?" I says, "Because they've been places and seen things." And I was raised amongst very interesting old people. My folk on both sides were seafarers around the world. One time I had 3 great-grandfathers in this country, and one of them forgot the way home. And clever people, poor people, but clever, the things they could turn their hands to. So I was raised among folk that were handy, no survivors. And then when I went to the West Coast, to Barra, that was a place where long ago, you see, when the herring fishing was big, of course the herring just almost got wiped out. But it was huge at one time, the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, before the First World War. And the lassies would go gutting, 14 hours a day they'd be on their feet gutting herring and packing it and singing all the time. So when I went to Barra, I could sing them the East Coast songs that they hadn't heard for a long time, and then they'd sing to me. And so I improved in my Gaelic. I'm not a fluent Gaelic speaker like a native speaker, because it wasn't allowed. In my own dialect, as I say, if I said one word, one time I was sitting next to a laddie in school, and he was going like this, and I was moving, and the teacher says, "Kennedy, sit still. What you moving for?" I says, "He's kettling me." She says, "What?" I says, "He's kettling me." She says, "Come out here." She gave me this strap for saying the word kettle, and she says, "The word is tickle, not kettle." So that's how we were raised, you see. It's with the English style. See, when you're a small country living near a big country, you don't have a great time at all. So things are slowly changing. Anyway, and that happened to the Gaelic speakers in Ireland and in Scotland, the Breton speakers in France, it was just that. So the stuff that I took up off the old folk, I kept to myself. I'd be listening when I was 13. I remember fine, I was 13 weeks and I got shifted to another school, and I'd go and listen to a man, it was a street singer, a tinker, like a Scottish gypsy. And I remember fine, the first song, I'll maybe sing that to you and tell you the story, because those songs have got stories too, you see. Because you tell a story, or you sing a story. And then when I'm singing these songs, I remember the person that I got it from. Because there again, a lot of this stuff I never saw written down. Some of it was never written down. The stories never written down. And so the Scottish peasantry were, on the whole, quite literate compared with English peasantry. And that came from when the Presbyterian Church came in. That the cornerstone of that was that people could read the Word of God without having a priest or a minister making up stuff and telling them. They wanted, which happened, of course. They could tell the poor folk, but no, in Scotland, by God. It was very common after a sermon on a Sunday for the older men, to wait for the minister to come out and nail him because he said something about, they'd no television, they had to do something for fun. But so, as I say, when I'm singing about, I can see the places and I can remember the folk and remember the story, because that's old history. And yet, when I'm singing at home, I have to tell them that. One time I was doing the Southwest, and I was singing, and I went into this hall, and they had clan banners hanging. And here's the Kennedys, and here's the Bruces, my mother's, you see. So I thought, ho, ho. So I said, well, I said, I feel at home here, I feel at home. I says, here's my clan and my mother's clan. I says, now hope to hell I hadn't to speak English, I'm on my own folk. And one English said, yes. And the rest said, no. I thought, oh, good, I've got the audience. You need to get the audience, will you? So, and then I sang, and then I stopped. I said, no, I'm not singing stuff here for entertainment. I'm not an entertainer. No, I'm a teacher, even amongst my own folk. And I said, these songs are our history. They tell us far we are, far we come from, you know, who we are, who we come from. And when I come down off the stage, a woman says, come here. But she kissed me. She says, thank God somebody's got the damn sense to tell these idiots here what's going on. She says, because they'll never so. And another man came up and said, I'll never listen to these songs again with the same thing. He says, of course it's our history. So you have to tell folk, you know, you have to tell folk. And then when I went to the West Coast, I say I was amongst some people there. I've had mentors in my life. At home, a woman, Jeannie Robertson, a tinker, somewhat like Scottish gypsies, and she was recorded a lot. She had a lot of people have songs and they've got bits of songs, or they sing a song and they're not careful. She was very careful to get from the old people the whole versions of the songs, you know. And she was a smashing singer. Oh, she was like an operatic singer when she started singing. So I knew her since I was 7. And then it was maybe when I was 18 that I started going across there. And they would be speaking about stuff, and then she'd say, did you ever hear the story of such and such? I think, oh, here it goes. You know, they'd know money for booze, so I would bring across, Friday, you got your wages, and a bunch of us would go across. We carried out stuff from the pub, maybe half dozen bottles, big bottles of beer, and a half bottle of whiskey. And like my grandfather used to say, if you want a machine to work, you've got to oil it. Well, we had to oil the old folk, we had to oil them too. Oh, they were glad to see us coming in the door, you know. Now this woman and some of her folk too, they like some of my mother's people, were genuinely psychic people. They couldn't spell the word, but they were genuinely psychic. They had, and I got a bit of that. They would see things happening and this, that, and the next thing. The second sight stuff, you know, Dahialag, you call that in Gaelic. So anyway, we'd go across and we'd be talking, and then she'd say, and I think, oh, here's a song coming. So she'd never hear it, so she'd sing a verse or two and say, no, wasn't that awful to happen to that poor woman? And then she'd sing a bit more. And then she said, well, I better put it all together. So she'd sing it right through, and then she'd say to me, now sing it back to me. And I had to. The younger ones at home will say that to me, no, you cannot remember. Just hearing what I said, oh yes, very much so. And long stories too, very much so. And that's our training. People will say, oh, so-and-so, they're trained singers. I'll say, what the devil were we? Sitting till 3, 4 in the morning sometimes, and then getting ghost stories, genuine ghost stories. Spirits coming to visit and that, and terrified to walk home, because the buses were all going, oh, terrified to walk home. But, well, now that I've mentioned, I'll sing you that first song that I ever learned for this fella. And I remember he played the accordion, because he was singing out in the street, and he needed something, you know, to help him singing for money. Busking, as they called it. And he had no teeth. And I'd watch him, as I said, when I was 13. Now, this was, we got home for our dinner in the middle of the day. You had your supper at night, your dinner, the main meal in the middle of the day, because the men were too tired coming back from the shipyards and that to eat a big meal. All they wanted to do was eat something, get themselves washed and shaved, and I'd wait to the pub. So they didn't hang around the house as much. No. The women were glad to see the back of them, to tell you the truth. So anyway, but I would go and watch him and then go back to school with an empty stomach, but I had a head full of stuff. And then I go home and my mother says, there's your dinner for your supper. She says, you've been listening to them damned old songs again, because it was old fashioned, and to them that was poverty times. They wanted to forget that stuff, you see. And there's a bit of that still left in Scotland. Because it's not all that busy a country. My part is, because Aberdeen's the centre of the oil business, the North Sea oil, you know. 28 languages are spoken in the schools nowadays. There used to be English and that was it. School English. The woman used to come down around and teach us, like I said, to speak proper English. Peas pudding hot. Peas pudding cold. Peas pudding in the pot 9 days old. And we used to say, what's that she said? It was hilarious. But that was English for you, you know. Divide and conquer. Anyway, so, but I listened to that, and then, of course, I didn't tell anybody I had these songs, because I was scared they would stop me singing them, because they were old-fashioned, you see. And the story to this is, there was a Macpherson, a laird, a small lord, chief, up in the hills, because Aberdeenshire's flat, 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 and then it goes up into the hills, and two very different populations. Scandinavian, here from long ago, very Hieland were there, and quite different people, even yet, quite different. So, this Macpherson, he'd been married to a woman, and she was a bunch of trouble to him. And when she kicked the bucket, and he got rid of her, he thought, oh, he'd go looking, he'd needed a woman about the house. And he was going along on his horse one day, and he come up on a bunch of tinkers, like gypsies, camped by the side of the road. You don't see that now, but I remember it fine. Before the war and just after the war, they would still camp by the road. And he saw a good-looking lassie. So he says to her, here, woman, come away, come up on my horse, and we'll get married. So she thought, oh, here's a good thing here. So she jumped up, and they got married, much to the total disgust of his folks, you know. But, oh, he could do what he wanted. He was the chief. And they got on fine. And they had one boy, one laddie. And when the laddie was about 11 or 12, the old man, he kicked the bucket. So they got thrown out on the road. She couldn't care less. She went and looked for her tribe. And this young Macpherson was brought up to do what tinkers do best, which is to lie and to steal. But the thing is, the King of Scotland was a teenager at that time, because of course they could come into a kingship or queenship whatever age. And when he would come up north looking for salmon and looking for stags, who would know where the best salmon pools were but the young Macpherson, because he was a poacher himself, you see, or the stags. So he was a pal. He was known to the king, and they got on fine together. They were much the same age. When he was a bit older, he had a band of men, and as I say, he was a bit like Robin Hood, except he robbed from the rich and he kept it to himself. He didn't share, no. But they went into the town, Keith, I think it was, in a market day. He went in the head of a band of armed men, and that was against the law. So they've been trying to get him, the bailies in the town, you know, the town officers. So they managed to get him separated. He was a great swordsman, and pinned him up against the wall of a house. And the woman upstairs, she heard the fight as the stramash going on, and she lifted from the window and looked out, and she ran to the bed and took a pair of blankets and threw them over him, and that confounded him. That's how he was captured. One time in Aberdeenshire, years ago, I was singing, a man come up to me, he said, I like to hear that song. I says, what for? He says, I own that house. He owned the house, you know, this was early 1600s, but granite houses, they stand forever. Anyway, so that was nice to know that he says, I've looked out that window that she threw the blanket out on him. They got him to the town of Banff, and he was tried there, and he was to be hung. He asked for his fiddle, for he was a famous fiddler, and he broke the fiddle, and that fiddle isn't broken, but it's in the Macpherson, I think in Perth, the town of Perth, there's a museum there. And he asked to play the fiddle, and he broke it, because he said nobody would play. And they were scared that there might be some intervention from the king, you see, because word had gone down to Edinburgh. And they were looking for a white horse, because the king's messenger would be coming on a white horse. And right enough, 1:45, he was going to get hung at 2. 1:45, didn't they see in the distance, coming out of the bridge of Banff, the reprieve. So they sent a laddie up the clock tower and shoved the knock 4:15. They shoved the clock quarter fast. Now, in my day, if you were up in Banff having a pint of beer in the pub, and you'd say to somebody local, "Time is it, man?" And you'd say, "So and so." You say, "Ah, you're still a quarter fast, are you?" You could have had a fight. You could have a fight, you know. So anyway, and it's got a chorus, of course, most of our songs, of course, because when you're singing at home, you're not a singer, an audience, you're singing their songs. And they're watching you too, the older people are watching you. Because more than once or twice in my life, when I was young, be singing out in the country, and somebody would come up to say, "Well, you made a decent enough job of that song, but you missed out some verses." Wow. So you'd say, well, and with folk around about you, they would sing and you'd remember it, you know. I just had a lovely supper at that new place, that Asian place, at the corner, the old Chittenden Bank place. So now we're comfy chair, I feel like sleeping. Never mind, I'll stay awake for you. You've been so good to come out. Macpherson's Rant, that's called. A rant is a good going tune, and he played a sprig. A sprig is a lively dance tune. He danced a jig below yon gallas tree. Farewell, farewell, ye Hieland hells, I'll bid farewell to ye. For Macpherson's rant shall nae be long below yon gallas tree. And Sir Rantonly, Sir Wantonly, sae dauntingly get he. He played a sprig and he danced and jig below yon gallas tree. 'Twas the Laird of Grant at Hieland Sant, he first laid hands on me. He played the cause on Peter Brown to gar Macpherson dee. And Sir Rantonly, Sir Wantonly, Sir dauntingly get he. He played a sprig and he danced and jig below yon gallas tree. Oh, it's little did my mother think, the day she cradled me, that I would be a roving boy and die on the gallas tree. And so rantonly, so wantonly, so dauntingly get he. He played a sprig and he danced and jig below yon gallas tree. It was in aneath a window sill, she cast a blanket o'er me. It was be a woman's treacherous hand, Macpherson knew shall dee. And Sir Rantonly, Sir Wantonly, Sir dauntingly get he. He played a sprig and he danced and jig below yon gallas tree. Now come tuck these bones fra off my hands and bring it to me, my sword. There's nae a man in Scotland, but I'll fecht him at his word. And Sir Rantonly, sae wantonly, sae dauntingly get he. He played a sprig and he danced and jig below yon gallas tree. Now there's some come here to see me hung, There's some who would buy my fiddle, but afore I quit part we had, I'll brack her through the middle. And so rantonly, so wantonly, so dauntingly did he. He played a sprig and he danced a jig below yon gallows tree. I steen his fiddle and tae his hand, he broke it our asteen. There's nae man shall play on ye, when I am deed and gane. And so rantonly, so wantonly, so dauntingly did he. He played a sprig and he danced a jig below yon gallows tree. The reprieve was coming o'er the brig o' Banff that would set Macpherson free. But they've shoved the knock 4:15, and they hung him to the tree. And so rantonly, so wantonly, so dauntingly did he. He played a sprig and he danced a jig below yon gallows tree. There you go. No, you know, you can, if you feel like it, you can join in the choruses. The state's a free country. And I don't think they're going to charge you. Did you have to pay to get in here tonight? Oh, boy. Who's in charge? Make them pay to get out. I'm no Scotch for nothing. Anyway, you were talking about the first, when I come to this country, it was, he's dead now, God rest him, but it was Mike Seeger, Pete Seeger's half-brother. I landed up knowing the whole family, and the father too. He was a bit of a snooty old bugger, the father. Charles Seeger, he was a musicologist, you see, and he thought he knew it all. Ha! Never mind. But Mike heard me singing at the folk song club, and all this started just out of happenstance. Me coming to this country, just out of happenstance. I was, as I say, a traditional singer. I was the youngest one of all the traditional singers at home. And if there was any foreigners coming to sing, they'd say, "Oh, Norman, would you come and sing?" So this night, I thought, oh, this laddie, Mike Seeger, I'll go to hear him. And I went in, and I laid down my half-crown, you see, like in those days with $50. And they says, "What you doing?" I says, "Here's my money." Well, I was a singer, I never paid. "Oh, you didn't?" I said, "I'm not singing." "Oh, you can't do that." I said, "You watch me." So I went and sat there and listened. And then at halftime, of course, the drink was going. So the fellow that run the club come up and gave me, which he'd never done before, a double whiskey. Of course, no water, no ice, and anything. No. You drink it straight in Scotland. Like my father used to say when I was buying booze when I was home, and him ordering the best of whiskey, and him just knocking it back. I says, "God almighty, man." I says, "Hold hard." I says, "Taste this stuff." He looked at me in amazement. He says, "Taste it? Who wants to taste it? It's the effect you're after." So, different way of looking at stuff, you know. And me, I've run the still since I was 14, you know, I know who can run the still fine. But anyway, so he comes up, the fella, and he gives me that. He says, I thought, I should try this often, getting free booze from him. And then he says, "Now, Norman, would you?" I said, sure. By that time, I was well oiled. So I sang in Gaelic and I sang in Scotch. And then, as usual, we went back to have a party. And Mike came up to me and he says, "I really liked your singing. Would you make a tape?" Now, when you've been having a drink in you, and somebody says, "Give me the moon," "Oh, I'll give you 2 moons." "Sure." And I forgot about it. And it was the April after that, that was early winter, this fellow who ran the command, he says, "Here's a letter to you for America." Is that America? I don't know any America. I don't know anybody in America. And opened it, and here was the invitation to come across, all the way paid, you know. Now, I was 15 years in the civil service, and I owned my own flat. I owned 4 of us raised in the tenements in 2 rooms. And then The old woman up the stairs, she died, and I managed to buy it, you know. Oh, stuff was cheap in those days. And wasn't that cheap, it was cheap enough. And here's me with 3 rooms, and the neighbours were saying, what the hell do you need with 3 rooms, man? You can only be in 1 room at a time, you know. He says, well, I had my room out in an air raid shelter, no windows, a breathing hole, telly lamps, you know, the kerosene lamps that you pump up. Stripped, when I was out there in the winter time, stripped them along Johns. And then some of the old folk would come in and squeeze in, and I was making beer and cider, so they'd get some free booze. And they'd say, oh, Jesus, laddie, you're just like the old foreign weavers, stripped to the waist, because they were weaving so hard, you know. Well, that's what I had to build my own looms, make my own shuttles, shear the damned sheep and things like that, yep. That came from Bill Blatchley's fleeces. I carded and spun it and knitted it up. That's nothing to me. So anyway, and knit my own socks too. So anyway, I come across, but before that, in this woman, Jeannie Robertson's house, I was across there, and here's a young couple, where a young boy, and they were Americans. And we didn't see a lot of Americans. No, this was before the oil business started, and we were swamped by Americans, Yankees, and mostly Texans. And they didn't fancy the Texans. The Texans were great for buying stuff and not paying their bills, skedaddling back to Texas. So anyway, but this young couple, they'd been studying ballads, and they were doing in Oxford, in a library. Somebody said, what are you doing? Well, we're studying. They said, wouldn't you like to hear the real thing? They said, what, does anybody sing them? They said, uh-huh. So they came up to Jeannie's house, and I met them. When I come across here, the British singers was one from England, one from Ireland, one from Scotland, and they weren't ballad singers, but nothing like what I had. So whatever. We'd only 2 weeks in this country, and for 3 months I went into Canada, because I had to leave my job, you know. My boss wouldn't let me leave, so I just came across and thought, to hell with it. My mother for once, she encouraged me. She says, Norman, away you go. She says, if you see better things in America, take your bonnet off and throw it over the moon. And she starts quoting poetry. There are times in the affairs of man when taking it full time, I thought, my God, she's quoting poetry, she's serious. So this young couple appeared at Newport. So I must say the first day I got up and smelt, I said I smelt freedom. I think it was opportunity I smelt. But they said, what are you doing after this? I said, well, I have to make my way to Toronto. They said, would you like to come up to Vermont? I thought, where the hell is Vermont, you know? So they took me up here. Now, I'd already, with my mother, we'd seen that movie, The Trouble with Harry. And we'd seen that. And my mother and myself were looking at the sun coming through the maple trees. I thought, oh my God, that's bonny. Oh, I wonder if that's real, you know. Well, I come up here in July, and I saw it, and I wrote a postcard. Ma, remember The Trouble with Harry? It really exists, you know. So, but they were going across to the town of Barrie, and they said, would you care to come across and sing a song or two? And I was only 2 weeks away from Scotland, you know. So I went up, and I sung. I come down, I bet you there 40 or 50 people mobbed me. Hey man, for about never did you come for? For long have you been here? I went, because they were speaking really broad. You see, when people leave their country and come across for good, you'll retain the language as it was. And it changes, so I speak far more old-fashioned. I have to find old people, and they look at me, but of course once you're speaking your dialect, you're one of the boys. You're right in there, at least they know you're not English. So I was amazed, and these are the folk that come across, because Aberdeen's a granite town, you know. But in my day, they stopped. There's a great, huge hole, a quarry there, the Roosla quarry, that Aberdeen came out of. But they stopped that, but they come across here. So I was really amazed. So I've never felt really out of place in Vermont, never. Because the Steen dikes, you know, the stone walls, that's exactly like at home. There are parts, this state looks so much like Perthshire and Inverness-shire, and the flatter places look like Aberdeen. It's just an eye-opener to me. And then there's Caledonia County. Well, Caledonia is the old name, one of the old names for Scotland. You see, so many. Peacham was called the Scotch Corner when they first settled there, because they were all Scotch, and they know it too. So anyway, I'll tell you another bit of a story, and then I'll sing you another song. This doesn't have, but any songs that have choruses, oh, join in. Gets to be hard work otherwise. But this is a story that happened maybe, you see, I know old songs. Old songs to me are before Napoleon's time. New ones are since Napoleon. Because after the French Revolution and all that, ordinary folk thought there might be a change in the future. Instead of the old feudal system going on and on and on like it did in Russia right up until my father's time. It never changed until that revolution, and it needed changing. But after that, of course, the British government were terrified there'd be a British Revolution too. They were hardened folk. But anyway, the songs started having happy endings. So a lot of the old ones didn't. But this concerns a place, it's up near Turriff, North Aberdeen, out in the country, and it's Craigston Castle. I can see it in my mind's eye fine. I've got a good memory for these things. And that's still quite a high tower. But when it was at its height, there were two brothers, and they had family. The oldest one, his wife had died, and he was a bit depressed, so he got fed up and went to fight in some of the crusades. And he had a laddie, and he would have been, the heir to the place. And he was about, well, I've heard different ages, but I heard he was 12. In the song, I think it's a wee bit stretched that the woman was that much older, but she certainly was older, his cousin. When news came back that the father was dead, the brother heard, oh, whoopee. Now, he couldn't claim the place, but the laddie could. So what he did, he forced the laddie to get married to his cousin. That was very common in those days, marrying cousins. Because you didn't get married for love. That was very, very suspicious. And ordinary folk could, they didn't matter. But people with money or property, like plenty of places yet, in the world, arranged marriages, you see. Because the folks say, well, you can fall in love and you can fall out again as easy. So, and of course it was Catholic times and they weren't allowed to divorce. So anyway, married up to this young laddie, and he did sire a child, but within a couple of years he died. And they say, he was just really depressed, or I don't know what happened, but he died. But the song that I heard it from this Jeannie Robertson, her daughter Lizzie. I got it off of her long ago. These folk are all dead now. So I say that keeps memories going. Now you see, I've lived myself most of my life, and that's a great way of doing if you can. Because nobody says, what doest thou? Or I'd be sitting out weaving in the concrete area shelter, and my ma would say, in the name of God, Norman, will you shut up? You're alarming the whole damn tenement. Because it was 8 families, 3 tenements right down by the seashore. They're still there, of course. But anyway, but I can sing. Some mornings I'm waking up and a song starts. My feet get to the ground, away it goes again, singing any old time. And I've never needed a shrink. No, never needed a shrink. When I was working in Williamsburg, and it's so hot down there, and I think, I'm going to die here. I'd be sitting just in the old costume, singing for hours until I got, and then I was happy, starting singing dirges and laments, and then singing Gaelic dance music. Yep, they come in handy. So anyway, but this is the song that I heard about this. It's just a short song. But there are many versions, and versions in this country too. It's old enough that some folk brought it across. Oh, Father, dear Father, it's the sad turn you've done me, to marry me to a young boy, whose mother I could be. And him that's scarcely 12 years old, and me that's 33. He's my bonny boy, he's young, but he's growing. No, daughter, dear daughter, you'll just do as you're told, For won't he be a man for you when you are growing old? I want he keep you warm when the winter nights are cold. He's your bonny boy, he's young, but he's growing. No, father, dear father, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll send him back to school again for another year or two. And all around his cap I'll tie a ribbon of blue, just to let the people know that he's married. At the early age of 12 years, he was a married man. At 13 years old, he was the father of a son. Before he got to 14, the grass over him grew green. Cruel death put an end to his growing. I will sow, my love, a shroud of the ornamental brown, and every stitch I sew in it, the tears come trickling down. Every seam I sew in it, the tears come trickling down. But I'll nurse his pretty boy while he's growing. Here you go. Okay. As I say, we have songs in English. We've got versions too, but they're kind of tame compared to ours, to tell you the truth. Kind of tame. Let's see, just one comment to my head. You see, I don't, people, you see people going on stage with stuff written out. Well, usually I'll lose it, or sometimes I chew it, or whatever. So, this happened, as I say, once in Carnegie Hall. I was singing there, and they'd asked me to send up a list of the songs I was going to sing, and any jokes or comments I was going to tell, and with the minutes and the seconds it was going to take, you see. I thought, holy Moses, this is amazing, So I phoned up a lady. I says, now this is, oh, well, we need to know it. I says, well, I just won't come. And they were paying me $2,000, and the airfare down. So I thought, oh, the hell with that, no. He says, well, and when I got there, he was very, very nervous, the laddie, very nicely dressed and very civil. I says, now tell me, man, how long do you want me on that stage? He says, well, 50 minutes. I says, okay, 50 minutes, right you are. And I says, no, whatchamacallits, no encores, no. And that night, I was opening, usually people open for me, but I was opening for Natalie McMasters. Now, I knew her since she was, because I've been to cabaret and Mona's at the time, when she was 14, and I knew the man that taught her, her uncle, Buddy McMaster. He had very little Gaelic, and he loved to hear the Gaelic stuff, and he'd play fiddle tunes, and then I'd sing the words to them, the fiddle tunes for dancing to. So I went on first, and I'd said I'd been up in cabaret, and I sang some cabaret and stuff, and I was mobbed with half time, But when I come off, he said, now 50 minutes, that's all you can do. And I come off, I says, how? And he went, 50 minutes? I says, there you go. I says, I was singing this and up in front of folk when you were a mere twinkle in your father's eye. So he went, oh, okay. So whatever. So anyway, this has, it's got a chorus, fal-da-diddle, 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 I do all need to put it up a wee bitty. Fal-da-diddle, 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 diddle. No, you could teach chimpanzees to sing that, so take it up. There was a bonny shepherd lad kept sheep on yonder hill, oh, but he laid by his pipes and stuff and get to sleep a while, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. When he walked up again, his heart it took a turn, oh, for there he spied a wheel fart maid swimming in the burn, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. He took his pipe into his hand and played to her a tune, oh. Come o'er the stream, a bonny lass, for I've feared to weet my shoon, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. Haud off your hand, the lassie cries, and dee to me nae wrong, oh. And I'll gie ye as muckle siller as ye can carry hame, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. I dinna want your siller, lass, nor riches money fold, oh, but I'll roll ye in the heathery brace to keep ye for the cold, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. My father, he's a farmer, and he bides neath yonder hill, oh, and angry, angry would he be to hear that you would well, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. But come to me beyond green woods and tirl at the door, oh, and I'll rise up and let you in, and ye will hae your will, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. I'll come down beyond green woods and tirl at the door, oh, and my pipe'll play you sick a tune, you'll dance a reelin' mare, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. He went down beyond green woods and tirled at the door, oh, but you looked out fair window high, oh me, you'll get nae mair, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. You're like a horse, my featherhead, was tethered on the lawn, oh. He held his head abeen the hay, but he wouldna lay it on, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. You're like a cock, my featherhead, he wore a double comb, oh. He flapped his wings and he crawed a lot, and I think you're just the same, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. My shepherd's pipe, it's full of tunes you'll nae hear at the day, oh. But gin we chance to meet again, you'll feel who it could play, oh. Fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle, fall-da-diddle died, oh. There you go now, fine. I must say, you know, at home, our songs, you don't get this in Gaelic, you don't get kind of rude or blues songs in Gaelic at all. But in Scotch, oh my Lord, and it's all double entendre. Yes. And as I say, we didn't have a lot of money, but at Hogmanay, we didn't hold Christmas at all. Before the war, no kinds, not in our area, Presbyterian Church didn't have that at all. And some of the churches here, some of the kirks here in Vermont as well, the Covenanters churches, no. But Hogmanay, a big deal. Oh boy, saved up to buy food and stuff like that, and made special food. And that's when the old women would get a dram, you see, and then you go first food. And I couldn't go first food because I was very red-haired, my father too. My father's brothers, not my brother. But they wouldn't let you in until somebody dark-haired had come in, because they didn't realise it, but that was the remembering the times that if a red-haired person come in, your first foot over the threshold, the Highlanders from the hills, who were, the majority were red-haired, would come down and steal your cattle and things like that. It was just an ancient thing, but they remembered it. No, laddie, you can't come in, you should ken better. You'll have to wait outside. And that freezing cold at time, but then they'd have singing and have a great time, really cut loose. And when the old women knew that I could remember songs, they'd have me in a corner singing this stuff to me. I was getting my education finished, let me tell you. And I was getting scarlet too, because I used to be very shy. I was shy, you know, and I'd blush, but I'd remember the songs. Boy, did I. Some amazing stuff. But anyway, let me think something else. Well, as I say, I'll sing it. There are no bairns here. Oh, the bairns wouldn't understand anyway. I got this off a genie, and it's called, this is a chorus. She was a rum one, meaning she was a peculiar one. She was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. Again, some of this stuff, some of the stuff wasn't even recorded, because they wouldn't record this stuff, because they say somebody will play that back and I'll get blamed. So, so anyway, she was a rum one, yeah. As I roved out on a May morning right early, there I met a pretty fair maid. She was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. Try that. She was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. She walked up and she walked down, and I walked close behind her. And I asked of her the reason why she could not stride no wider. For she was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. Go away, you foolish young man, and stop that foolish talking, for it little becomes young men like you to take up a lady's walking. And she was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. I am a doctor to my trade, my friends they call me rare, oh, if you'll tell me where your trouble lies, I'll see what I could try, oh. And she was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. My trouble lies atween my thighs, and there it is abiding. It tickles me both night and day, and it keeps me from my stride. And she was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. She lay down upon the bank, and I provided the plaster. When I rose up, she cries to me, oh, never end it, mister, for she was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bonny one, fal de diddle die do. She gave to me my winter's keep, likewise my winter's fire, but the best thing that she gave to me was a stable for my stallion. And she was a rum one, fal de diddle die do, oh, but a bon one, fal de diddle die do. That's a folk song for you, know. Where's the time going? Oh, hi. There's a place in Scotland, in Perthshire, called Killiecrankie. At the time of the religious wars, you know, you talk about in America had a civil war. Lord, Britain had so many civil wars from the 1100s onwards. And then the religious wars, they came in, and that was even worse. So there was a battle in the braes of Killiecrankie. Braes mean the slopes, you know, mountainsides actually there. And it was the Highlanders, the Marquis of Dundee, Bonnie Dundee they called him, he got killed in battle actually, but he was Catholic and he was in charge of the Catholic Highlanders. And then the Lowlanders, they were fighting, and they fought, oh, a long time they fought. And in the end of the day, it got dark and they couldn't see to fight any longer. So the Lowlanders would have waited to fight the second day, but Highlanders never stayed in a battlefield. They would get their dead and certainly their wounded and leave, because they believed that the spirits of the dead would be up above them, you see, and might do them injury. So by default, it says that in the song, that the Lowlanders won. But the Mackays came, Clan Mackay, and the chief was an old man and he was tired, so he lay down behind a dike, behind a bank, and they couldn't get him to waken up, and his men couldn't fight without him, you know. So they so there's a bit, why Mackay, why did you lie in the bray in the bank, you know, this wheel that kissed King Willie's loaf. Now this is King William that came across to be king, you know, from the Hanoverians. That's, you see, because the folk knew, the royal family nowadays, they're mostly German stock. Because people don't realise that Victoria and Albert raised their kids speaking German in Buckingham Palace. Her father could speak very little English. He couldn't go out in an open carriage in London because they would pelt him with bricks and mud. And then 4 times people had a go at Victoria, you know, shooting at her and things like that, but they missed. And then she lived a long time. I once met, I was at a craft show, a big craft show up in Toronto in '74. The year I came here to start this thing, and I met the Queen Mother there. I was weaving blankets, and then some old guys were coming down from Cape Breton to do a walking, to do a milling, to shrink them, singing milling songs, Gaelic songs. And so the public weren't allowed in. Some of the workers were there and saw him weaving away. They say, you just stay, Norman. So here she's come in, round this little wifey. And I mean, she's no more Scotch blood than I am, you know, we're just equal. And then she would come from Beaulion, you know, Beau's Lion. She'd be Norman French, and my mother, Bruce Norman French. So what? She just happened to have a bit of a castle. We had a tenement, a flat in a tenement. But anyway, so up she comes, and there's 2 captains of the Scotch Guards. They must have been 7 feet. They were big men, rigged out in the kilt, so lovely. And they both had swords, and they had the swords pulled out like this. You could see a bit of the blade, you know. And I thought, what the hell do you think I'm going to do? Shove a shuttle up her nose, you know. but she was, as I say, she was a very nice woman. She's and where are you from? I said, I'm from Aberdeen. Oh, good heavens, she says, there are so many Aberdonians I've met since I come across. I said, I wonder if there's any left at home. And what are you doing? I'm weaving blankets. Then some old guys are coming down, some old men. I didn't use the word guys then. Says, old fellas are coming down we'll do a walking. Oh, walking, says she. And she was rubbing her earring. Walking, she said. I've been to 4 of those up in Lewis and Harris. And I said, well, we'll have a good time. Are they treating you well? I says, oh, the best of food. And I says, and the best of company too. She says, well, I'm very pleased to hear it. I wish you well. And she held out her little paw. And I shook her paw. I must say, I didn't wash my hand for 2-3 days after that. It was kind of, she was a decent soul. When she was young, she was a spitfire, because I mean, she wasn't going to, they didn't think she was going to be queen or anything, but she did a damn good job. Never mind. So, what the hell? Oh, I brace a killie cranky. If ye had seen what I had seen, ye wouldna be so swanky, oh. If ye had been where I had been on the brace of killie cranky, oh. It's a short song. It starts off with the chorus actually. And gin ye had seen what I had seen, ye wouldna be so swanky, oh. And gin ye had been where I had been on the braes o' Killiecrankie. O fie, Mackay, why did ye lie on the brae ahen the bankie, oh? Yet as well a kissed King Wally's love as come to Killiecrankie, oh, and gin ye had seen what I hae seen, you wouldna be so swanky, oh, and gin ye had been where I hae been, on the braes o' Killiecrankie, oh. I folked at hame, I folked on land, I folked in sea at hame, I folked my auntie, oh, but I folked the devil and Dundee on the braes o' Killiecrankie, oh, and gin ye had seen what I hae seen, you wouldna be so swanky, oh, and gin ye had been where I hae been, on the braes o' Killiecrankie, oh, for we ran and they ran, and we, no, for there's nae shame, there's nae shame, there's nae shame of a man, for they ran and we ran, but they are run a woman, and gin ye had been where I hae been, ya wouldna be so swanky, oh, and gin ye had seen what I hae seen, on the braes o' Killiecrankie, oh. There you go. Now another song just come into my head. See what happens is, I'll be singing maybe 2/3 of it, and the next one saying, me next, me next, me next. And sometimes I'll say, no, not you. This is again a song from, oh, way, way back. When they were fighting the Turks. You know, there's all this stramash nowadays about fighting Muslims. And folk in Europe have been fighting Muslims since Crusader times, and then, you know, fighting with the Barbary pirates and things like that, and the Turks. So this happened maybe in the 1600s in Scotland, and this is in the south of Scotland. It's a place called Kirkconnell Lee. A lee is along a stream, it's just the banks of a stream, and the stream is called the Kittleshaw. There was a fella there, and he was very enamoured with this lassie, and vice versa. But there was another fella there that fancied her. No, he hated the first one. He hated him. He's a bit of a swine, this other one. But his mates were saying to him, you could do something about it. Well, you could kill him. So it happened that a fine day for once, and the young couple were walking along, and didn't she see out the corner of her eye the flash on metal? She realised it was a musket pointing to him. She put herself in front, she took the bullet for him and fell down, you see. Helen's her name, Helen at Kirkconnell Lee, that this song's called. And just a short song. Well, he couldn't save her, but he went for the fella, drew his sword, and tells us what happened, killed him. But he was inconsolable. So he went abroad. A lot of our people went as mercenary soldiers, you know. I said that last time when I was home singing. I said about the Gaelic language dying out. I says, no, it didn't. It was killed off. Because of the amount of men for generations have gone, especially from Gaelic speaking areas, nothing else to do, no other work to do. So they would join up in the Highland regiments and they just got slaughtered. You know, the song, they fired one round and the British kept it coming, but there wasn't as many as there was a while ago. That British were the Seaforth Highlanders. The English, I've been there in the battlefield, and there's still cedar stumps that they put in, and then they put cotton bales to absorb the fire. And behind them there were French, of course, Cajun people, Kentucky riflemen, Creek warriors, free black people, all of them who were used to using guns. And here's the English used to remain as cannon fodder, and they did it more than once. And they're marching through that bloody swamp with the great big hats on them and their kilts, you know, scarcely hiking clothes for a place like that. And they just got slaughtered. So as I said, the breeding stock, right up until the First World War, they got killed off. So the language just was cut down by that, you know. And do you think my folk at home know that? They go, oh, is that so? Wow, never heard that. Egypts, just Egypt, some of them. This laddie went away, and oh, he was famous for he was so brave, fighting. He wanted to die. He wanted to get killed, and that's what happens sometimes. He was never killed. He came home, and he was warden. He's a warden warrior, and he went to her grave, and they found him dead, lying in the grave. You know, that wasn't unusual. You know, Houdini, they would find him lying in his mother's grave. You know, because he wanted to know. He got, they were Romanian Jewish people, I think, yeah. And he went, what happened was, he went and married a Catholic Irish lassie. That's what it was. And the house they lived in, his mother's portrait was always squint. They'd straighten it and it went squint. And at one time, at Passover, they were singing all the Jewish stuff, and she got really annoyed, and she left the table, the Irish lassie, stomped up the stairs singing "Onward Christian Soldiers." So he was always wondering, that's why he went into the spiritualism, you know. I knew a fella whose father was a pal, a mate of his, they were into spiritualism. And another pal who was Conan Doyle. He was a doctor in Glasgow, of course. I once saw a movie about him, and boy, had he a strong Glasgow accent. Cultured one, you know. And they asked him why he went in. He says, well, he said, so many of his mates got killed in the First World War, and he wanted to know, they went in their prime, and before their prime, some of them, he wanted to know if their energy was at rest, or, you know, so that's why he went in. It was a big thing, spiritualism. So this is a bit of that sort of stuff. It's just a short song, but it's bonny. I wish I were where Helen lies. It's night and day on me she cries. Oh, gin I were where Helen lies on fair Kirkconnell Lea. Cursed be the head that thought the thought, and cursed the hand that fired the shot. Fanen my arms dear Helen dropped, and died to succour me. I laid her down, and my sword did draw. Fierce was the fecht on Kirtleshaw. I hewed him into pieces sma', for her that died for me. Oh, gin I were where Helen lies, it's night and day on me she cries. Out o' my bed she bids me rise. Oh, come love, come to me. There's more verses, but that's all I know. It's bonny. So. I'll sing you another Scotch song, and then I'll sing you a bit of the Gaelic, the old time. For that's, oh, it's the Gaelic songs. Oh, that's one thing that can still get me homesick. If I'm listening to the Gaelic songs, oh my God. Especially from the Isle of Lewis, that's, as I say, the first Hebrides, and says small barren place, you know, no trees, never trees in history in those places. That's where the standing stones at Callan are. You see, in Aberdeenshire, there are more standing stone circles, I say, in recumbent stones. There are no other place in Britain have the recumbent stones. They're like huge sofas, you know. Twice in my life, I've had very strange experiences in those places because I was told how to enter them, you know. Go sunwise on them, no, just don't go barging in and things like that. And I say my prayers there in Gaelic. My prayers I say in Gaelic because I think they've got a bit more punch. But anyway, but whatever, as I say in Aberdeenshire, they've got more standing stone circles than that in any other part of Britain. But here in Lewis, they've got huge bloody stones, great big things, and there's no stone like them on the island. The nearest stone is 70 miles away across the Minch, which is rough water. And I don't think the economy there could stand putting up the similar stones nowadays, even with their bulldozers and that. They couldn't afford it, you know. So it's amazing what people did when they didn't have colour television to watch, you know. So anyway, this is a song. It's another border song, but my mother liked it. It's the only song that she and I would sing. She's a good singer. My father sung music hall stuff, and I know plenty of that. Good, strong singer. Gave him a drink, you couldn't stop him. But anyway, and my mother, she sang bonnier stuff, and this is Why Weep Ye by the Tide, Lady, Why Weep Ye by the Tide. Jocha Hazeldean. Hazeldean was in the very south, in the Scottish side of the border. But of course the people that tell us the border, because the border shifted many time in history, you know. So, okay. It's not the easiest song to sing. Why weep ye by the tide, lady? Why weep ye by the tide? I'll wed ye to my youngest son, and ye shall be his bride. And ye shall be his bride, lady, so comely to be seen. But Aish's lot a tear don't fall for Jocko Hazeldean. No, let this wealth of grief be done, and dry that cheek so pale. Young Frank is Lord of Errington and Chief of Langley-Dale. His foot is first and peaceful, his sword in battle keen. But Aish's lot a tear don't fall for Jocko Hazeldean. A rope of pearls ye shall not want, nor gold to bind your hair, nor mettled hound, nor managed hawk, nor palfrey Brechton fair. And ye the foremost o' the marsh shall ride o'er forest queen, but Aish's lot a tear don't fall for Jocko Hazeldean. The kirk was decked at morning tide, the tapers glistened fair. The priest and bridegroom wait the bride, and dame and knecht were there. They've searched for her in bower and hall, the lady wasna seen. She's o'er the border, and now we Jocko Hazeldean. There you go. Actually, it's a real boozy man's song. They sing it when they're drunk. Jocko Hazeldean. Yeah. Well, I'll sing you a Gaelic song, and I'll sing you one of the oldest songs I know. And this is a Yidam. A Yidam is a rowing song, but not for an ordinary boat, for a galley. Like the galley slaves, but these weren't slaves, of course, that were rowing it. as I say, the Suderies, the Shetlands, the Orkneys, and all the Inner and Outer Hebrides belonged to Norway up until about 1200s. And there was a lassie, a royal lassie was getting married into Scotland. And the Norwegians, as usual, been fighting with Swedes, you know. Do any of you know Minnesota? Well, the Swedes and the Norwegians are still kind of, yep. But anyway, the Gustavus Adolphus Wars, they were great. A lot of Scots went and fought there. But anyway, this was long, long ago. And because Norway hadn't the dowry, they pawned the Suderies. And then by the 1200s, they had to give them up. But they were settled, you see, as I say, Barra was settled, the MacNeils. Neil is the Norse name. Donald is a Norse name. My clan are Clown Ulrich. Ulrich, the clown means the children. With the children, Ulrich, and Ulrich's not a Celtic word at all. It's from the Scandinavians. But anyway, they had war galleys right up into Elizabethan times. War galleys, and they were very handy things, you know, because they could maneuver where a sailing boat couldn't. And they were plagues of these galleys. Same as the Norwegian ones. Beautiful made things, beautiful, beautiful things. In my time, they made another one, Sko, they called it, but it was a fishing boat. There's one man knew how to make it, and they made a video in English and a video in Gaelic, because he was a Gaelic-speaking man. And he taught a younger fella who was a Gaelic speaker too. They had to go to the mainland to get trees, and our Lord said they could come, and they had to go looking for a mast, you know. And they're looking, and it just so happened that the head forester, he was a Gaelic speaker too, different dialects, but that was fine. I remember they were looking to trees, and they looked at them, and he said to them in Gaelic, you know, that one do, and he looked it up and down, and he said, "Huna mi nis mesa, I've seen worse." They're so, they don't come handy with compliments. But anyway, this is a song about a man, Alan Vosterstich, Alan of Moydart. Moydart is in the mainland. The mainland MacDonalds were Clan Ranald. Ranald again, Norse, Ranald's clan. The ones out in the islands, they were Sheer Thorkel's clan. He was the Lord of the Isles, you know. That's a great thing to be called the Lord of the Isles. Anyway, I think MacDonald would still be called Lord of the Isles. But anyway, the mainland ones. And this was a song made up, a Rowan song, Drinking His Health. He was a famous warrior and he could steer his ship. And they didn't have a tiller, of course, they had a steering oar at that time. He had a strong right arm to steer the ship through storms and things like that. And the chorus is Hatchin Foa Mary, we must rise and go, we must rise and be away. And it's singing about the great stories of his prowess coming back. And it's just for the rhythm of the oars. Hatchin Foam, Foam, Foam. Hatchin Foam, Foam, Foam. Hatchin Foam, Foam, Foam. Hatchin Foam, Eri o Shetan Lan Jehoramach. It's all a mitch goose sound of ri. Jochs lanje allein voice shich magurach du gan ero. Hatchin Foam, Foam, Foam. Hatchin Foam, Foam, Foam. Hatchin Foam, Foam, Foam. Hatchin Foam, Eri. As gatte wilt du fatte worm. gan jero sound as agnarum, nar clunyin scale bachelum, gaiskog en gniev etoch, hatchin form, 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 hatchin form, 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 hatchin form, 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 hatchin form, Mary. A skipper rila galleon, no, a yalla kwan amaden, vera lang go kallachen, lespiona glachen trainer, hatchin form, 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 hatchin form, 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 hatchin form, 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 hatchin form, Mary. There you go. I'll finish with a short thing, a dance song. As I say, both there and here too, there was a time when ministers got far, far too much power, and they thought they could put an end to lads and lasses canoodling if they could stop them dancing, and the way to stop them dancing was to stop people playing music. Well, as I say, in England at weddings the men would whistle, and in Scotland they would hiddly diddly dumpty diddly diddly that. But in the Gaelic speaking, they would make up songs, and they're still doing it. The lassies will make up songs about their boyfriends and the various performances and things like that, you know. They're a bit salty, but most of them will be for men going away to sea in the schooners and wishing they were home and things like that. And I mean, they've made up songs about going to the Antarctic whaling and things like that. But you see, as I say to folk, that, as I've said, that a normal native Gaelic speaker nowadays would have at least 4 times the vocabulary that English or American speakers would have. In the old days, even more so, because it's just that kind of language. I say, like the Eskimo have that many, I use that as an example, many, many words about snow, because they need to know that. It makes a difference. You'll get one word in the dictionary, and word after word after word, a Gaelic, you know, because they're just using it for the purpose that you need it at the moment. But this is, I'll sing you for step dancing, because I've sung for dancers, I've sung for roomfuls of dancers, sung for step dancers, some really good step dancers. Oh, I sung once in Aberdeen at a music from the North Atlantic countries, fiddling and singing, and that was a lot of young people came from other countries too. And as a fella said to me, you know, I'm a step dancer. He says, oh, aye. He says, could you sing Post Pale Post is a tune in Bales your mouth, Post Biol and some dialects, Post Pale. For step dancers, there's no bother. No bother. So he started step dancing. And I was singing, you know. And it was great. It's great singing for dancers. You have to watch. A piper once told me, watch and keep the rhythm, because if you let them away with it, the dancers will slowly get faster. Faster and faster. He says, you lay it down, and if it comes to a fast bit, do it, but don't let them run away with you. So, and he was dancing, and as he was dancing, this come out. That's Mjolnir, that's Thor's hammer, you see. Because my name in Gaelic, Thormas means Thor's man, you see. I was going to be called John Burnett Cable Kennedy after my father being the elder son. But I was born in my grandma's bed, in my grandma's house, and she says, you'll call him Norman, and that's that. And when my grandma spoke, that was it. As I say, those old women, like my mother too, they did hard manual work and they had muscles. If you contradict them, they'd knock you to the ground. So he didn't let that happen more than once or twice, you see. So anyway, but so I sang this fella, so I'll sing this, Christina Campbell, singing about this lassie. And she's good, she's neat, sewing silk, And she's got blue eyes and little feet, and she's got lots of sheep up in the hill. I think that was the main attraction for the guy, was her sheep, you know. And then there's the Mullindu, which is the snuff mill, because of course a lot of people took snuff instead of smoking or anything like that. Especially if you were working the cotton mills, in our big cotton mills in Aberdeen. You couldn't light that much because there was so much stuff in the air. It went into that, they were brown lung, but it would explode, so the women chewed snuff, you see. And oh, it's that thing that I've got there. So anyway, I thought it was my thing stuck here. Modern contraptions. At home, when I was singing, we were singing out in the country, we were singing in villages that had no electricity. The whole island of Barra, no electricity. So you had to sing, because the kids in front were playing bowls, were playing marbles. All the time you were playing or singing. The women and the old people in the middle, and the men were standing at the back. Because at half time and at the end, they skedaddled to the pub. So you had to sing so the men could hear you. And then when you went to the pub afterwards, they said, hey, bloody good singer, here's a dram. So we didn't get money in those days. We got food and petrol money and booze. And I never drank because I saw too much trouble with that until I was 25, started going singing. And then you had to drink. If you didn't drink, I'd sing with my eyes shut, 2-3 glasses, 4-5 glasses, double whiskies, no water. And you had to drink it and run to the toilet and throw it up, you know. That was rough. The second time, especially the English, they said, God, he can fairly go the whiskey. 7 or 8, oh dearie me, it was hard times. It was hard being a traditional singer in those days. Things have improved. I'm down to water, you know, hard times. But anyway, this is Christina Campbell, and then maybe a reel at the end. If anybody feels like dancing, now's the day and now's the hour. Hai chin and rat Christina Campbell is hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, Sean found a harmar Christina Campbell. I'm mar fool sheet the Christina Campbell, I'm mar fool sheet the Christina Campbell, I'm mar fool sheet the Christina Campbell, Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, Sean found a harmar Christina Campbell, Sullen gone scassin curl the Christina Campbell, Sullen got scassin curl the Christina Campbell, Sullen gone scassin curl the Christina Campbell, Curhecken and Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, hai chin and rat Christina Campbell, Sean found a harmar Christina Campbell, and yet the kickaroo has several do ya volundu, net the kickaroo has several do ya stauro, net the kickaroo has several do ya volundu, net the kickaroo has several do ya stauro, muluntu, uramana, muluntu ya urama, muluntu uraman, satokers all the house, muluntu uramana, muluntu ya urama, muluntu uraman, satokers all the house, emout nasos if several do ya volundu, emout nasos if several do ya stauro, emout nasos if several do ya volundu, emout nasos if several do ya stauro, muluntu uraman, muluntu ya uramana, muluntu uraman, satokers all the house, muluntu uraman, muluntu ya urama, muluntu uraman, satokers all the house, and Kellogg snursh and several do ya volundu, Kellogg snursh and several do ya stauro, Kellogg snursh and several do ya volundu, Kellogg snursh and several do ya stauro, muluntu uraman, muluntu ya uramana, muluntu uraman, satokers all the house, muluntu uramana, muluntu ya urama, muluntu ya uraman, satokers all the house, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadalaro, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadalaro, ik ben nul let een nauw, is mijn nauw let een nauw, ik ben nul let een nauw, koiter en tjalja, ik ben nul let een nauw, is mijn nauw let een nauw, ik ben nul let een koiter en tjalja, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadalaro, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadal, shine yo hudadalaro, Bodda gaan naar vieren, naar vieren, naar vieren, bodda gaan naar vieren, naar Bonnevekse graanje, bodda gaan naar vieren, naar vieren, naar vieren, bodda gaan naar vieren, naar Bonnevekse graanje, bodda gaan naar hero, 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 bodda gaan naar hero, gaan niet zo meer vallen, bodda gaan naar hero, 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 bodda gaan naar hero, rina meer vallen. There you go, folks. And thank you. Thank you. If as I've said before, my father used to say, don't applaud, throw money. And as I've told people before, once in Chicago years ago, they threw quarters at me, and it was painful. They could have wrapped it up in some, paper money. But anybody's got any questions about any of that old-fashioned stuff, I'll make up some folklore for you. Indeed, I've heard them making up folklore for suckers. Never give a sucker an even break, yeah. So I hope that's something different for you anyway.
Norman,
Okay.
do you ever think about weaving patterns as you're singing those songs?
No, but I sing when I'm weaving, when I'm spinning, of course. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's when some of those old ballads come out. And the same in this country too. Weavers were famous for singing. They were singing, and they say, some of the apprentices would get beat up because they did something wrong. But 5 minutes later, everybody was singing. It took, like the lassies gutting, it just kept their minds off the terrible work of ploughmen and all that used to sing. They don't do that with the tractors now. But no, I would get really confused. There you go.
So were your ancestors really singing while they were fishing all day long?
Oh, no, they would have been, my ancestors, we were not fisher people, no, we were deep sea. The fishers were poor folk, more folk were poor, but the fishers were poorer. But they were singing, as I say, when they were gutting the herring, and the East Coast lassies would say, the Heeland lassies, some of them could barely speak English in those days, but they said, they could sing in songs after song. As I say, that island of Lewis, it's very bare. And that, how many songs are there about Vermont that are commonly sung? In the Lewis songs, and the people who had had to leave Lewis and singing, going out singing Caniel Cayley on Safreri, there's no Cayleys out in the prairie, and people, because when these people came from those areas, came across to Canada especially, they'd never seen trees, and speak about getting depressed. They were terrified in the trees. The Anishinaabe watching them, the Indians watching them, of course, in Canada, loads of Indians still yet. And the first thing they did, I once met up in Cape Breton in Iona, a place there that I was the first person they ever paid to come and sing. And it was hilarious because there were young priests, they're Catholic people there, sitting behind me. And I was singing and singing, and he was sitting there. And I was just taking breath, and he says, loud and clear, it came right past me, into this, Jesus Christ, he sure do sing the old stuff. And that was hilarious too. I come down off the stage, and an old woman come up, and she had a red wig on, and pure healing. I mean, because the folk I couldn't believe they were so pure healing. They'd never bred any, and certainly not the French there, not with the Mi'kmaq Indians. So anyway, this woman come up, and she had 2 lassies, maybe 15, 16-year-old, and she'd been at the bottle, the old one, And she says, I really, because they talk so healant like this, She says, I really like them songs you was singing, boyo. Do you like tea? I says, yes, I like tea. Well, agry, darling, well, agry. You come home with me, and I'll get you tea. And something else. That's all crow. She was putting the make on me, I was much younger. I thought, well, I've heard it all. Good for you, old woman, And when I'd come off the stage, there'd be a row of people with the rum bottles, smuggled rum, German rum. Oh, that stuff would knock your back teeth out. You could extract your teeth, and you'd never know it. It's so strong. And you'd take a taste. And a woman come up, 2, 3 younger folk, and she says, we're Kennedys. Well, those Kennedys were across here in the 1700s and fighting in the army and things like that. So anyway, I says, which Kennedys? From Loch Aber. I says, you're Abrich. That's what you call that, Abrich, Loch Aber people. That's up in the hills, in the mountains near Speyside, where the whiskey distilleries, a lot of them are. She looked at me, she says, Jesus Christ, I haven't heard that word Abrich since my henner died, since my grandfather died. And she says, hear that now, hear that, that's who we are. I thought, that's great, you see, because sometimes I can mind people. That happened at this past year before. I was up in Kilbretton and there was a lot of stuff going on. And they put on a tea for me, and people came, and this was in the Catholic side because they are still Presbyterian Catholic. And I was talking to them and telling them stories and singing, and they were nice enough, you know. And I said, now you folk here, do you have the dialogue? They looked at me. I said, the second sight. They looked at me. One woman said, would you be talking about forewarning?
Yes.
And I says, is that what you call it? We call it. They'd never heard the Scottish version. So, and she said, what do you know about? So I told her a story, a real story, it happened. And I tell you, it was like opening a floodgate. I said, oh, I remember my grandmother saying so and so. And then a fella said, how do you know that? Who are your people? Who are you? Yeah, that's what you say to somebody. Who are you? Who are your people, you see? And they must think, oh, we must be related to you through the stories. And honestly, it was just great. And then I sung some of that Porta Pale, and a woman there, a native Gaelic speaker, white hair, bouncy. And she was through in the kitchen making tea. And the next thing we heard was her feet. She was step dancing. So I sung, and she step danced as long as I sung. I thought, oh, I'll kill the poor woman. I better stop, you know. So see, that thing is in people's memories. You maybe never think of it, you know. Now my brother, he doesn't know any of that sort of stuff. He's like my father's folk, as we'd say, thick as shit in a bottle. But my mother's folk, very, very, very psychic, very much so. So I got that from her, you know. Oh, I could tell you real stories, yeah. But not tonight. But I'll tell you one more story because there's folk here interested in standing stones. Last time I was home, I was out in the country, and it was midsummer night. Well, you see, Scotland's about 600 miles further north than here Aberdeen is. And in midsummer, if it's clear, you can read a paper. 2 in the morning, you can read a paper outside, especially if there's a moon. And the woman I was staying with, she's from Maryland, she's a good friend of mine, she's got a lovely business there. And I says, is a horses near here, standing stones? Pardon, she said, for 2 miles, why? I says, wouldn't it be great to go? Wouldn't it be great to go and see them on such a night? She says, get on your jacket. It was a nice night though, mild. I says, but no, we'll need to take something. She says, what do you mean? I says, you can't go to these places empty-handed. Like what? I says, you take an egg and I'll take an egg. For that's life, you know, the egg. So we went there, got out the car, and we had to go through, there's a kind of gate like this, and then a gate swinging, so you can only go 1, 2, 3. And there were 3 or 4 couples coming from the stand. Oh, I said, oh, I'm not the only one that remembers. And a lovely evening, oh, bonny evening, bonny night, So we went up there, and it was a mound, a circular mound, flat, and quite high, and stones, remember it built, 3,000 years ago. You could get up, and then the stones, most of them were stubby, but at the back was the recumbent stones, like a great big slab. I mean, they're huge slabs. And there were stones at the back of it, stones to the side. They were more like pillars. And then there was a flat bit. My God, there was a bunch of wildflowers, and there was a bunch of crow's feathers, 2, 3 other things. She said, what are we going to do? I said, well, don't break them. I said, but just lay them down there. She went walking. I said, no, my dear. I said, you go ahead. I said, but I have to do it properly. So I walked Jeshel, sunwise, because I try never to do anything against the sun. Widdershins. Tuachal, you call it in Gaelic. That's how you put a curse on people in their house or things like that. In the old days, if people were coming to a castle, they would announce they were coming in peace by coming sunwise. Otherwise, they would give a formal thing that they were going to attack. You see, they did things with manners in the old days. If they were going to come and kill you, they did it with some manners. They let you know. So and you go against the sun that way. And I've seen dances, Pueblo Indian dances, doing the same thing, coming out to their kivas and dancing like that. In fact, that was the first I saw in San Ildefonso. They come out en mass and they danced against the sun around the church, and then they went to their their kiva and dance. I thought, oh, they're making a statement there. It was hilarious. But nobody would have known, you see, if you didn't have it in your own culture. So anyway, but we looked into a bonny night, and she says, well, I says, we'll go. I says, you go ahead, I want to say my prayers. So I put my arms around, and I pray for my folk and for friends, and just now I'm praying for 3 people who are sick. People phone me up and ask me to. So I'm saying my prayers, and I got a mild, but really quite a strong electric shock. It come up here and went right down, right through me. Right out the stone and into the stone. You know, you don't expect things like that. But you see, those places are, we've all got electric fields around about us. And these places have got loads of that stuff. They're on ley lines, you know, because they just didn't build them any old place. Can you see one, they could put up smoke signals and see them all around about. So that's a bit of real Scotch. I wouldn't call it even magic. It's just there, you know. But most people, they don't tune into that. But some people do. Some people do. There you go, folks. Now, home safe. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.